between Yuri and Alex, because we have, you know, kind of mentioned that there's a couple of different ways that we might actually see both of these players play it out, either going with something a little bit slower or a little bit faster. And it looks like Alex is going to be going with a little bit of that faster mode. There's that Whimsicott and the Lapras, which is going to get matched by Yuri with a Cinderace and Rillaboom.
Yeah, so both of the new hidden ability Pokemon coming out right away, putting on a lot of pressure. Rillaboom, of course, with that fake out pressure onto Whimsicott. So a bunch of plays you can make on Yuri's end right now. You could, for example, fake out Max Airstream to just KO the Whimsicott. However, this Lapras is putting on a lot of pressure right now. A G-Max Resonance will, do a ton of damage, if not just KO the Rillaboom. Cinderace also might just faint to a Max Geyser if the Whimsicott's able to Tailwind and Cinderace isn't able to change his typing beforehand. So Alex going with a pretty offensive lead here, and I think this first turn will be a really, really critical deal. I have to ask how Yuri actually deals with this Lapras if he doesn't get much damage off from the Rillaboom.
Well, one way that Yuri might deal with this Lapras is the switch that we just saw them hover over. Cinderace now going back in its Pokeball for the Bisharp that's now on the field. And Alex going with that Hyper Offense is going to Gigantamax the Lapras really early in this set, just hoping to make use of these Gigantamax turns as we do see that Dynamax factor come through.
Big question is, who is it targeting this turn? As the Tailwind comes out, so that's never really too surprising from Whimsicott. No fake out, though, so Yuri isn't able to deny that Tailwind.
No denial of the Tailwind, and G-Max Resonance comes through for Rillaboom. Oh, that's going to be huge damage and a one-hit knockout there, giving Alex a very early lead.
That's a huge lead. That's exactly the kind of turn that you want if you're on Alex's end. Able to get a free knockout, get the screens up, and take no damage in return. Pretty much the dream turn from Alex's end there. I think Yuri maybe trying to predict the target going into the Bisharp and trying to get some damage off there with the Rillaboom, trying to also position himself a little bit better, but instead just eats up a big knockout. And we've already seen all of Yuri's Pokemon at this point. He has Primarina, Bisharp, and Cinderace. The only way to really deal with Lapras is pretty much going for maybe Max with the Cinderace and doing a lot of damage there. But Cinderace is even out right now. You can't really bring it out, of course, because the Tailwind is up. So Yuri instead forced to bring out the Primarina, but neither Primarina nor Bisharp really do very much against Lapras, especially considering that the screens are up right now. So Alex is kind of free to just keep going for attacks, either maybe like a Fake Tears and a Max Lightning onto the Primarina, or he could go for like a Moonblast Max Geyser onto the Bisharp. Either way, he's in a really, really good spot. That turn one was just such a knockout play from Alex's end.
No pun intended, right? Alex is definitely taken a quick lead there because of that early one-hit knockout onto Rillaboom. But Yuri is going to be kind of going for a bit more of a defensive play with the Dynamax. You saw them hover over the Max Guard, and will at least be able to kind of eat up a bunch of this damage coming through. If Alex decides to target down that Primarina, as Whimsicott goes for the Fake Tears right into the Max Guard, and Max Lightning comes through. Huge play by Yuri to keep themselves in this one.
Yeah, that's a big one. Iron Head comes out and targets the Whimsicott, but with the Aurora Veil up, Whimsicott takes that. Of course, presumably, most of them have Focus Sashes anyway, but, the fact that Yuri commits a turn of Alex's Dynamax / Gigantamax is good, but Alex still has one more turn, so he can just go for the same play. It's relatively safe. So if Yuri doesn't want to take any damage, he has to go for that double protect, and yeah, he opts for it and doesn't get it.
Doesn't get it, so the Fake Tears is going to find its target now onto that Dynamax Primarina, and that means this Max Lightning from Alex is really going to hurt. Oh, Primarina does hang on though, but because it went for the Max Guard, won't be able to do any damage this turn.
Exactly, yeah, so critical survival there, at least keeping the Primarina in, but like you mentioned, Yuri isn't going to do any damage this turn, so that's essentially 2 turns of his Dynamax used solely to stall out the Gigantamax itself. Ironhead comes out and, that'll KO the Whimsicott, but Alex still has 2 Pokemon comfortably in the back and a bunch of turns of Aurora Veil as well. Yuri only has 1 turn of Dynamax as well, so Alex really just set the tempo of this game really early on, picking up that knockout and also setting up screens, really showing how good offensive Life Orb Lapras can be. Once again, a lot of players tend to use bulkier builds, either with Light Play or maybe Weakness Policy, but that Life Orb is just guaranteed damage right from the first turn, able to knock out Rillaboom, which is actually the biggest threat to the Lapras. So at least Yuri now has been able to stall out the Gigantamax from Lapras' end, but Conkeldurr really the perfect Pokemon to have right now, pressuring the Bisharp with fighting type attacks, especially that priority Mach Punch.
Yuri's next couple of turns are going to be really critical to see if they can stay in this one. I definitely am worried about the Bisharp being able to stay on the field because of the Conkeldurr, but it's time for this Primarina to dish out some damage.
Yeah, I think, you could pretty easily go for, like, the Protect and just attack with Primarina, which is exactly what Yuri's doing. So the question is, does Alex call this and Protect? He does not protect the Conkeldurr, so this Conkeldurr might just faint to something like a Max Starfall.
Ooh, the Freeze Dry, though.
Oh, knocks out
Primarina! Oh my gosh, Primarina can't move!
Yeah, this Primarina came out, protected itself twice, or tried to protect itself on the second turn and just faints immediately. The Life Orb Lapras putting in so much work this game, getting the one-hit KO on the Assault Vest Rillaboom and picking up the knockout on Dynamax Primarina. It has really, really carried Alex throughout this game, and this makes it so much harder for Yuri to win now because of the fact that the Conkeldurr hasn't taken any damage, and Conkeldurr checks the Bisharp so easily. You can very easily on Alex's end double up into the Bisharp. Another double protect, but it fails once again.
Yeah, so this Mach Punch going to bring this Bisharp down to its Focus Sash, so it will be able to hang on, but because it went for that Protect, it's still not doing damage this turn as Cinderace bounces up into the air and changes its type to Flying.
Yeah, so, kind of a nice way to avoid any damage, but Alex makes the correct play, knowing that Bisharps often do carry that Focus Sash, doubling up into that slot, and this was just such a dominant performance from Alex's end. Of course, Yuri didn't get the double protect on either of his Pokemon that he opted for, but when you commit a double protect that early on in the game, it means that you are playing really from behind immediately. So I think Yuri went for the best play that he could have after that disastrous turn one, but the turn one was just too strong from Alex's end. This Lapras is just putting in so much work. At the end of the day, the only damage Lapras has really taken is from those Life Orb hits as well. So Yuri needs to, I think, figure out a better way to deal with Lapras. It might be with that Rillaboom. He also noticeably didn't go for the Trick Room option with his Dusclops, so perhaps you might want to consider going with Trick Room in the subsequent turn. Bounce misses the Conkeldurr that insult to injury.
Oh no, the bounce misses! And then this Freeze Dry, that's going to be it for Cinderace, and the final blow for all four of Yuri's Pokemon. Wow, that is a convincing victory from Alex, but I think you were right there with how we could actually see an adjustment come out from Yuri in order to take this game 2 and bring us into a game 3, which is maybe go for that slower mode of Trick Room.
Yeah, it definitely starts with turn 1, right? Like, the fact that Yuri felt compelled to switch out the Cinderace meant that he obviously respected the threat of Lapras, but the thing is that Lapras pressures both Rillaboom and Cinderace with the super effective attack with that Max Geyser and the G-Max Resonance, and depending on how the Lapras is trained, if it's speedy under Tailwind, can just knock out the Cinderace before it even does anything. And what's tricky is Yuri Cinderace here doesn't have Protect, so he can't change its typing or protect itself from a big Max Geyser. So I think Yuri might want to consider switching up his leads, and if he sticks with the same leads, he's definitely going to have to put on a little bit more pressure. You could even Dynamax the Rillaboom, for example, go for a Max Overgrowth onto the Lapras. That could be a really, really big play. You just can't really give up Rillaboom for nothing. In that game, it did absolutely nothing. One other play we could maybe see Yuri make is, for example, double up into the Whimsicott, go for a fake out from the Rillaboom and attack with the Cinderace. Deny the Tailwind. That at least gives him a better shot. But I mean, Yuri basically needs to have a better use of his Dynamax. That Primarina Dynamax was used solely for defensive play, and while it was able to stall out a couple of turns of Dynamax from Alex's end, Primarina didn't do any damage at the end of the day, and I think if Yuri wants to win, he's going to have to figure out, how do I actually knock out the Lapras?
Yeah, the Lapras was the biggest threat on Alex's team for sure, and especially under Tailwind, it was just taking knockouts left and right and moving quickest on the field. So I actually do kind of wonder how we might see Yuri respond to that, because when we saw their matches yesterday, it was very interesting that, we saw some Max Airstreams come through from the Cinderace to help make Bisharp a little bit stronger, but is that good enough, or would Cinderace be fast enough against the Lapras under that Tailwind setting? We don't know that yet.
Yeah, and the other question is, Yuri could also commit to, like you said, the hard Trick Room mode completely. Maybe go with Dusclops Primarina in the back. You could even have Rillaboom kind of as a offensive sweeper under Trick Room. So I think Yuri definitely has a lot of options, and for Alex's end, I think there's little reason for him to think to deviate from his lead. That was just as convincing of a win as it gets, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him stick with the same combination just for now. Of course, if he anticipates Yuri going for that Trick Room mode, he could maybe bring his own Dusclops to reverse the Trick Room if he anticipates that coming out. But Whimsicott Lapras, even against, for example, if Yuri tries to go with the Trick Room mode, has pretty good offensive pressure right from the start. Whimsicott's often carry Taunt as well, so that could be one other way to shut down the Trick Room. So I think a lot of adjustments that both players can make, but I think Yuri really feels the pressure to make more adjustments because it just worked so well for Alex in that first game.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the second game between Alex and Yuri. Already Alex is up 1-0 in the series so far. So the question that we have in the back of our minds is, can Yuri make enough adjustments in order to actually take the game? So really excited to get back into this one and see how this next match is going to go. You mentioned that Alex might bring the same leads because of how convincing it is, and that's exactly what we're going to see here. Lapras and Whimsicott, no surprises here about Alex's leads, and Rillaboom and Cinderace again from Yuri.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see the Rillaboom Cinderace again from Yuri's, and perhaps he feels like he just had a better play to make turn 1 since that turn 1 play last time ended up pretty disastrous for him. So, one play we can make is the double up onto the Whimsicott this time or Dynamax the Rillaboom. I think both of those are viable options. If you go for Fake Out and something like a Max Airstream or the Max Strike, which we see Cinderace has, then you can just pick up the knockout immediately onto Whimsicott, deny a Tailwind. You can also consider Dynamaxing the Rillaboom and just maybe doubling up onto Lapras and trying to get that out of the field immediately because, at the end of the day, Lapras is the one still doing so much damage, but yeah, I think Alex here is safe to once again just go for a Tailwind. If he has Protect on Whimsicott, this might be a good time to Protect if you're anticipating the Fake Out. And Lapras here, once again, free to either G-Max Resonance into the Rillaboom or Geyser into the Cinderace, but I think Resonancing into Rillaboom is always a super safe play to start things off, just to get that Aurora Veil up.
I think the Aurora Veil would definitely be the play just because of how impactful that can really be to support this core that Alex has decided to bring. So I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that Alex is going to continue to go for a very similar start to what we saw in Game 1, which is going to be that Lapras Gigantamaxing. So I kind of expect to see the G-Max Resonance come out here, but we'll have to see what Alex decided to do with this Whimsicott, as we're not going to see it yet, as this Fake Out is going to find its mark. That actually does a lot of damage. So is this Max Strike going to be enough to pick up the knockout?
Yeah, if it's targeting Whimsicott, it definitely will be enough, and that will deny Tailwind, and it does go into the Whimsicott. So this time, Yuri is not playing against Tailwind, which is a big deal. His Cinderace is also out on the field, and it's normal type, so even if Alex opts for that Max Geyser into Cinderace, will not pick up the knockout. So let's see if it is that Geyser or the G-Max Resonance.
G-Max Resonance. So same turn 1 from Alex again, which we know secures the knockout onto Rillaboom. So trades across the board, but it remains to be seen who has the more effective end of those trades.
Yeah, and this time around, there's no Tailwind, but, we didn't see Alex's 4th Pokemon last time. If it's something like that Dracovish just could come out and do so much damage to Cinderace. Sure, Cinderace isn't Fire type anymore, but it still puts on so much pressure. But for example, if Alex does have Conkeldurr and Dusclops in the back, expecting maybe Yuri to go with Trick Room, then this game actually becomes a lot harder. But it is going to be that Dracovish, and that just puts on so much pressure if it is the Choice Scarf variant.
That is going to be a big problem for Yuri to deal with. You can see that it is a Choice Scarf variant of this Dracovish. So that's going to be a speedy Pokemon on the field.
Yeah, what makes this really tough is that Yuri's Cinderace doesn't have Max Guard, so Fish's Wren will just do so much damage to the Cinderace. Won't pick up the knockout, but a double up should be able to seal up the KO onto the Cinderace. So Yuri's definitely in a tricky spot too, because you have Dusclops out, but you don't want to necessarily click Trick Room, because if you set up Trick Room and you have, you think Alex's last Pokemon is Conkeldurr, then you've just set up Trick Room for Conkeldurr. However, for Yuri, he's already lost Rillaboom, so he kind of needs to do damage onto the Lapras, but it's tricky because if you target the Lapras, that means Dracovish sticks on the field for a little bit longer. So you kind of see the awkwardness of having something so fast like that Cinderace next to the Dusclops. This Fish's Wren comes out does so much damage.
That does so much, and a Max Strike to fire back, which does bring the Dracovish pretty low as well, but I don't know if it's in range of potentially getting knocked out by this Dusclops. Cinderace, man, it takes so much damage from that Fish's Wren, and the Max Geyser as the follow-up too is going to secure the knockout for Alex.
Yeah, so safe play from Alex's end there to just double up onto the Cinderace. Covers any switches as well, and because Yuri's Cinderace doesn't have max guard, you're pretty much forced to take that damage. And so, Dusclops can hit back with a little bit, but once again, Alex is just making so much more use out of his Dynamax / Gigantamax in this game.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't enough. I was wondering whether or not that Nightshade was going to be plenty to get the knockout onto Dracovish, but it's not enough. So Dracovish hangs on for another turn with Vicious Rend in the rain.
Yeah, and you can see kind of the synergy between the Lapras and the Dracovish here, setting up the rain. Dracovish, supported by either Tailwind from Whimsicott or just that Choice Scarf naturally can do so much damage. So since Dusclops is very rarely carry protect, it's pretty easy from Alex's end, I think, to maybe just double up into it with the Vicious Rend and Max Geyser. But you can also Max Lightning here if, you're worried about something like Alice, which for Yuri's end, I think you have to set up Trick Room, maybe Protect Trick Room, but no Protect is going to come out.
Ooh, Dusclops does get a chance to hang on, and with the Hyper Voice coming in from Primarina, that will be enough to secure the knockout onto the Dracovish, but Lapras gets a chance to follow up here, and with Max Lightning, onto the Dusclops' follow-up, that's another knockout for Alex.
Yeah, not only another knockout, but also sets up the electric terrain, and rain is up, so this Lapras will be able to comfortably deal with the Primarina with whatever electric type attack is carrying, normally that Thunder. Alex still has one Pokemon in the back as well, and with Lapras being just so bulky, with the screens being up, it's going to be very difficult for Yuri to win this one. Conkeldurr, it doesn't do very much against Primarina unless it has Thunder Punch, and with a Thunder Punch it actually might just be able to, a double up should definitely pick up a KO now, so for Yuri to have a chance, he's probably going to need to hope for some critical hits. Even with some crits, I'm not sure it's enough. It's just the pressure of the Auroraville being up, plus Pokemon that have all these super effective attacks makes it really tough, and there's the Thunder Punch.
Oh, Thunder Punch moves so quickly, and that is a one-hit knockout. Alex taking game 2 again in a fairly convincing fashion. And that's going to knock Yuri down into the lower bracket.
Yeah, Yuri kind of committing to the fast mode once again. Did have Dusclops in the back this time.